Okay, I'm going to talk really briefly about the "there is a need to be playful" section. And I say briefly because a huge chunk of my research, and I've said this, is on the idea of play and playfulness. So to define playfulness and to help start to really get at the possibility space that Zimmerman is talking about here, we need to define play first. So the major scholar for play, his name is Huizinga. He was publishing in the 20s through the 40s, so the very controversial figure now because he was German. There's a lot to unpack there, but one of the things that Huizinga points out is that both animals and humans play, and one of the biggest, and he created this idea of what we call the magic circle. We've kind of attributed this idea of the magic circle to him. So when people play, there's this magic circle surrounding the play space. And when we're inside the magic circle, we are playing and we are playful. We're playing with rules, but there are rules that we've agreed to. We are finding pleasure in our activity, but we're not necessarily having fun. A lot of people don't like to lose. So inside this magic circle, we come together and we build all of these really complicated cultural ways of engaging with each other about how we set the rules and what that looks like. And so then within that or outside of that, we can break the rules, we can break outside the magic circle. The magic circle really starts to fall apart when we start talking about professional sports. Is a football player playing because they're being paid to do it? They're finding pleasure in it. It's not necessarily fun, but it's not voluntary, which is one of the key components to Huizinga's definition. But then we could say the same thing about integrating a game into school or into a classroom. So the activity, I'm requiring you to play a very specific game, and then later in the semester, I'm requiring you to play a game. It's not voluntary. You have to do it for class points. I mean, you don't have to do it. You could not get the class points, right? So is that voluntary enough for play? So play in Huizinga's definition is really complicated. Okay, so we're gonna make it even more complicated and bring in a contemporary scholar. So Sikart, who published a book just a couple years ago on play, fantastic book. I absolutely love it. Talks about the idea of play is pleasurable, but not necessarily fun, which is a key component in a lot of these. But what Sikart really points out that I think is really useful to us is that the game doesn't matter. Play is biological. Play is something that humans head towards in different ways. We play word games. We rhyme. Memes are playing. The way that we share them, the way that we pass on, memes, really we're passing on little packets of culture to other people when we share the meme. That is playing. And to a huge extent, it's also playful. And so then play to playful, we really get, and I think that Sikart does a great job of explaining or separating these two, right? Okay, so play is still, it has to be voluntary. We're not necessarily having fun. The game doesn't matter. It's a fundamental part of human nature, but it looks different for different people. It doesn't have to be bound up in a specific structure of a game, but it has rules. What we're really looking for when we're trying to differentiate play and playful, and then really start to theorize where does playful fit, and how can playful help contemporary people in modern society? We're trying to separate, or we're trying to get play without the activity of play. Okay, so I'm standing here in my office and I have little toys. I have these cats versus pickles, and they're pirates because we're the Marauders, and so I love pirate themed things because it goes along with, who we are and the whole little ethos of Millersville. So I can be playful with these because they exist in my office. I don't have to actively imagine the two of them talking to each other or imagine a battle between the two to be playful. If my child comes in, or if a child comes in and I hand these over, they probably engage imaginative play and pretend these two are interacting with each other. So they're experiencing the activity of play, where the fact that these exist in my office is playful. The play activity, the actual imagination, the interaction between the two doesn't have to exist for the mindset or the way of thinking to exist. So when Zimmerman says there's a need to be playful, that's what he's getting at, is that divide. So Zimmerman's article definitely published before Sickhart's book did. And so although he's not citing him directly, Sickhart is really citing Huizinga and other play theorists. What he's getting at is this very same idea. We don't have to have an activity. And an activity of play does not have to meet these very rigid rules that Huizinga and other play scholars have lined out, especially in psychology. Playful has value, and playfulness can exist across all of these different boundaries, and it doesn't take much for that to happen. And it's really useful because what we get when we're playful is we can play within rules and within a context. We can play within that context in like the wrong ways so that we're breaking the context purposefully, which then, you know, we have lines between, is that dangerous or is it acceptable? Like and so Sickhart then starts calling it dark playfulness, and there's a lot of bad that we can do when we're breaking the rules. There's a lot of good that we can do when we're breaking the rules. But then if we understand the context, we can also playfully go outside the context. So again, we're in a professor's office and I've got little toys. We can go just outside the expectations of the context and we can be playful there. So there's a lot that's going on with what we mean by playfulness and how it interacts. But the key here really is that play is an activity and playfulness is the mindset. And those are the differences that I want you to note, because I don't feel that Zimmerman kind of unpacks that quite enough, because playful is going to be really helpful to us moving forward.